Today on the Dennis Michael Lynch Show, we're going to talk about the Israel-Muslim world conflict. Why is the United States split over these two? What are the facts? Where did the money spent? And who is the greater monster? And then, of course, we're going to talk about a new guy that you need to know about. His name is Wachabata Bada Lada Lada Ali. And he says, if you voted for Trump, you're a loser. Oh, we're going to have fun today. And it's going to be all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. Today is Tuesday, December 2. We're climbing closer to Christmas. And the one thing I do miss about being up in New York is the Christmas season. There's just something about it. The cold, crisp air. Sometimes you'd be lucky enough to get the snow. And what we would do as a family is we would every year, we would go in the car and head to this Christmas tree farm. It was about an hour away. A ride that was long enough to get the kids excited, short enough not to drive them crazy and us crazy in the process. We'd get out, and I'd usually have a hatchet, and we'd search this whole farm, and the contest would be who can find the best tree, and then we would cut it down. And I will say, living here in Florida, I look outside the window right here, and it's 80 degrees. The palm trees are waving, and it's just not the same. It's probably the only thing I have to say that's bad about Florida is that there's something about Christmas that's missed here. And even when you go up and down the street, you'll see some Christmas lights. There's just something about Christmas lights on pine trees and aprovites that look a little different than when they're on palm trees. I'll never get used to that part. But anyway, it's nice that Christmas is coming and everybody can take a little bit of a break and never forget what Christmas is about. It's not about Christmas gifts, presents, Santa Claus, although that's all nice and everything. It's about the birth of Christ. And I get older, I get more connected to that. And maybe as we get closer to the holiday, maybe we'll do one podcast here where we just talk about the beauty of Christmas and the beauty of what it is supposed to be all about. Maybe explain how we've lost a little bit of that and how it'd be good to bring it back. Today, we're going to talk almost again about the same topic we've been talking about every single day, with the exception of I'm also going to talk a little bit about Venezuela toward the end of the show. But we've been focusing heavily here on the Muslim takeover, if you want to call it that, their attempted takeover of the United States. And I told you yesterday we were going to talk largely today about the whole Israel-Muslim conflict here in the United States of America, how the sentiment has changed hugely from it was always pro-Israel to now it is a large majority of people, especially young people, are hating heavily on Israel. How did that happen? Because Israel really hasn't done a whole lot different than it has in the past. What changed? And so I think I'm going to give you some information today that's going to be very interesting to you because, as I say every time we get into this topic, I am not anti-Israel and I am not pro-Israel. I am pro-America. Now, I would like to see the world live in peace and harmony, but that seems to be just, a prayer you make on Christmas and it just never comes true. So I'm going to give you information today, not in defense of Israel and not in defense of the Muslim world. I'm going to approach this topic from that of an American citizen standpoint. Why is my country, why are my politicians, why are my kids, why are the influencers here that are all online, even the Tucker Carlsons of the world, Candace Owens, why are they so caught up in this freaking ridiculousness that, as far as I'm concerned, is dividing the country. And I will hope that you come away understanding that the root of all evil is money. We have allowed our country to be influenced and driven by the almighty dollar instead of the almighty God. And that is where our greatest mistake is. Now, I'm a very, very deep in his faith sort of guy. I never let a morning go where I am not outside of my balcony praying to God, giving him thanks. But I'm not a holy roller in the sense that I never use this podcast to force my faith on anybody. And I don't want it to come off like that today. But I do feel that there is a very ugly effort going on to destroy Christianity in this country. And I think it all connects to what it is that we're about to talk about. I think you're going to find this to be a very, very interesting show. It will be divided into three. One, the difference between the Israelis and the Muslims and what they're doing to influence America. Number two, we're going to talk about this absolute idiot to my right that's shown on the big screen. His name is Wajahat Ali. If you found yourself tripping over the remote control and hit CNN on mistake, then you would have probably seen this guy. He's a commentator on CNN from time to time. He also writes a journal for the New York Times. And the Fox News digital team just did a whole thing on him. I read it this morning and I said, oh, we're adding him to the show. And he has said some vile, gross things. And it was said in an hour podcast. I have cut out 5 minutes. And I want to prepare you ahead of time that you are going to be pissed off to no end. And then the third part is we're going to talk a little bit about Venezuela and why it is that Trump is so hell-bent on going in there and removing Moderna. Before we get into that, I will tell you this. My heart is sometimes just way too big, and my wallet usually pays a price. Over the last couple of days, I've had some people, and I suspect they're probably older people, who have asked me to please extend the $20 DML CBD offer. And it's not easy for us to do because we always take the last week off of December. It's the one time a year where we just kind of shut everything down, catch our breath, and because we usually work 7 days a week. If I extend this, it means that I'm shipping during that week. At the same time as the emails and the notices that I've received from people, it breaks my heart. People waiting to either get their paycheck, people saying that they're waiting to get their Social Security check or whatever it may be. Other people telling me that for years they try to buy my stuff, they could never afford it. Now, it's $20 that they're begging me to please do it. So I've extended it here another day. DMLCBD.com. In my hand right here is my signature product, Power Plus. We created this about a month or two right after I had started the company. It has been our signature product. It is a very expensive formula. It is, I think, the best CBD there is in the entire country. And we usually sell this bottle for $179. I have it for $20, for you for $20. Now, as you can imagine, I'm not making any money on that. I don't care. The CBD business is coming to an end as we know it. And so I'm sort of exiting before it becomes a colossal disaster in the next few months. All the prices, I think, are going to skyrocket even higher as the supply and demand becomes greater, as farmers no longer will really be incentivized to plant and grow hemp. So every last product that we sell, whether it is a lotion, a oil that you put on your body, or something that you take, a gummy or a tincture or soft gel, everything is $20. whether it's sold for 60, 80, 100, 175, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, everything is $20. You could buy as much as you want. These are all brand new batches. So the stuff will last for 2 years. That said, the only thing that's not $20 is this big monster bottle of the Miracle Me body oil. We have this also in a little, 1 ounce, and you can get this for the $20. Or this bottle usually goes for $200. Again, I can't keep it on the shelves, and now we're doing it for $75. I can't go any lower than $75. But regardless, today I extended it. Yesterday was supposed to be the last day. I'm extending it today. I hope you can get in there and get whatever you can. If you haven't been able to sleep, if you have aches and pains, if you have anxiety, if you have skin issues, if you're looking to boost the immune system, I mean, I always talk about it. I can probably make a book this thick of testimonials that I've received over the last 6 years, changing people's lives at levels that I never imagined. So now you get your opportunity to go in there. Like I said, this stuff lasts for 2 years. Go in and buy yourself a whole bunch. You could thank me later in life when you're feeling a whole lot better. Existing customers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is unheard of. So it's my way of saying thank you, my last sale, and I give it to you. And God bless. I hope it solves whatever it is that you're ailing from. DMLCBD.com tonight, midnight Pacific, all over. Keep in mind it will take a couple of weeks to get your product, okay, because we have that many orders to fill. All right, so let's get into this, okay? I worked on this extensively, and I'm going to do a little bit of reading. It won't get boring, right? Ryan, if I get boring, you tell me I'm boring. I think it's important for you to understand where this whole Israel sucks, no, Israel doesn't suck argument has come from. Big names, who I can't understand why they're big, but they are. Big names. Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, both hate on Israel. It's almost like it's an Olympic game for these two. You never hear them saying anything nice. They used to say really nice things. And then all of a sudden, one day, it's like something snapped. And they are completely anti-Israel. And those are just two names. The list is so long. And I'm not going to sit here and read it to you, but it's really long. And then you've got the other flip side. The people who are so extreme that like Israel is more important than the state of Florida. That's Ben Shapiro. There's a bunch of Mark Levin, some of these other lesser names that you may not have heard of, Dave Rubin. I mean, so it's become a war within the conservative movement, or if you want to call it the MAGA movement. I mean, it always changes its name. It used to be Tea Party. And the fighting is nonstop. And to try to understand this, because I can't understand it, because I know Tucker Carlson, because he's interviewed me, because we knew each other for years, because I used to have a lot of respect for him, and he treated my daughter very nice. There was a day, I've told this story a million times, there was a day where Ashley, when she was still in high school, they had this go to work with your parent day, and I took Ashley in to Fox News when I had an appearance on Fox and Friends back when Tucker was doing that, and Tucker let my daughter Ashley on the set, let her set up her camera just as if she was a camera person, and he treated her like gold. So I won't forget that. But at the same time I've been listening to some of his podcasts to try to understand where this anti-Israel sentiment's coming from, not because I am defending Israel, but because I believe that what's happening here is a bigger play. We are literally ripping our entire side of the aisle apart in half. And when you've got splintering, when you've got, Ryan, which camera's looking at me? This one? When you've got splintering, when you've got arguing and fighting, dysfunction, you leave a void to be filled. And if we don't fix this and get aligned and remember that the enemy is not the person who likes or hates Israel, the enemy is the Democrat Party. And the Muslim world, if you're afraid that this country is going to be an Islamic Sharia law country, or at least have some of it, a significant part of it be that way, then you should be very concerned about this stupid fight that's going on, because what's happening is the Islamic world is sneaking into the United States through the very weak and spineless Democrat Party. And they're slowly but surely taking it over. Prime example, look at New York City. People are now saying, and he hasn't even taken office yet, that Mamdani, a Democrat socialist who is a jihadi sympathizer, is now the head of the Democrat Party. I mean, just yesterday, we have a live feed here. Always, it's a Fox News digital live feed. There was a whole rally for the people at Starbucks, the Starbucks union. The rally was spearheaded by Mamdani, and he was standing next to Bernie Sanders, one of the most powerful senators in the U.S. Senate on the left-hand side. AOC, another socialist, Ilhan Omar, Rashid Tlaib. I mean, these people wield a lot of power. And so the Muslim Brotherhood, CARE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, all these different places recognize the weakness inside the Democrat Party. And as we become more weaker on our end, there is a very good chance that we are going to get our bell clocked. We're going to just get it freaking rung. And the midterms are going to come around, and you're going to look up and say, how the hell did this happen? And I'm going to point back to two things. I'm going to say, number one, it's because we didn't focus enough on the economy to get things done faster, better. And number two is because we were squabbling about things that didn't matter. And people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, and even myself, I'm nowhere near their height in terms of their following online or name recognition. That's a problem I guess I have to either address or solve. I'm not sure that I want to, but even me, I influence people into thinking a certain way because they listen to me every day. And if I make sense to them, they're going to say, yes, he helped shift my opinion. And I've done this better than anybody else as far as I'm concerned about voting for Trump and about wanting to end illegal immigration and mass immigration. But think about how much maybe you listen to me and how much I influence you. We've got Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, just those two alone, and I'm not adding all the other ones together. They're reaching 10, 15, 20 times the amount of people I am, and in many cases, they're reaching a younger generation. I'm big, my presence is big on Facebook. Their presence is big on X, right? So if you look at the demographics of people using X, formerly known as Twitter, and the people who are using Facebook, I reach a much older audience. My audience, by and large, is 45 and up. Their audience is, by and large, 45 and down. So I may be reaching the people with the bigger brains and the more experience, but your time and my time for the longevity of our country is somewhat limited. And therefore, the youngsters will tell you that they are the future, and they're right. They are the future. So how dangerous is this that we now have a large swath of our youth saying that Israel sucks? Now, I want to be very direct on something, and we should probably do a whole show on this at one time. But the Israelis and the Israeli government have done a number of things that are poor in decisions. And I'm not going to sit here and start going through each one. It's like me telling you about the poor decisions that the U.S. has made. They're not perfect. They're very imperfect people, just like we are, just like the Russians are, just like the Chinese are. The one thing about the Israelis that we have to give them credit for is they are 24/7 sleeping with one eye open. They are in, just imagine this. Imagine you being in the middle of a gymnasium. You're standing center court, and everybody else on that court and everybody in the stands, the entire stadium around you wants you dead. That's Israel. Israel sits in the middle of the Middle East, and everybody around them wants them dead. The Saudis will pretend like they don't, simply because the Saudis know that they need the United States in order to be able to thrive at the level that they are. Qatar will play that same BS game with us, pretend as if they love us and love the Israelis and want to protect them against the big bad Iranians. But trust me when I tell you, it's all a head fake. If you understand the Islamic religion, you understand it's all a head fake. So let's go over something. I have a report here that I've put together. It took me a couple hours. Why is there this massive change? Well, if you go back and you look at history, Jewish people here in the United States were very, very, very influential in creating the media, whether that media was Hollywood or that media was the news media. Very, very, very powerful people. And think about this for one moment. In the same way that, Ford was very influential in making cars and the assembly line, Jewish people were very influential in creating the messaging. So imagine the assembly line for making cars. That assembly line is the equivalent of creating media for the message. I'm going to give you just a few things that maybe you don't know. This list highlights key individuals who founded or established dominant control over major American film, print, and broadcast media companies. And this is by date. The New York World in 1883 by a man named Joseph Pulitzer. You may have heard of the Pulitzer Prize. Jewish guy starts it. The New York Times in 1896 by a Jew. Paramount Pictures in 1912 by a Jew. Universal Pictures, 1912 by a Jew. Fox Film Corporation, 1915, was by William Fox, a Jew. Warner's Brothers, 1923, by a group of Jewish brothers. Metro Goldwyn Mayer, also known as MGM, by 1924, Louis Mayer and Marcus Lowe, Jews. Columbia Pictures, 1924, Harry and Jack Cohn. RCA NBC, 1930, by David Sarnoff, a Jew. The Washington Post, 1933, Eugene Mayer, a Jew. The Goldbergs, which was a TV show back in the day, 1949, Jew. Universal Pictures in the 1950s, 1960s, MCA, also known as MCA, was by a Lou Wasserman, Jew. ABC in the 1950s, 1970s. The CEO who built ABC into a dominant network was Leonard Goldenson, Jew. 1953, Triangle Publications, which is also known as the TV Guide, via Walter Annenberg, Jew. The New York Times, again in 1963, became publisher, leading the Times' major expansion and modernization was by a Jew named Sulzberger. 1960s and 1970s, NBC and ABC News. That was by, you may recall, Barbara Walters led that entire campaign. And then the 1970s, Asylum Records and Geffen Records by David Geffen, big, huge name in that field. That's just a small, tiny taste. A small, tiny taste of how the Jews created the media here in the United States. So for all of that time, The messaging always was pro-Israel, pro-Israel. You know, you ask certain people, you know how everybody always says America was a Judeo-Christian nation? Really, it's not. There was nobody who was Jewish in the founding. It was all Christians. There was nobody Muslim in the founding. So when you look at the course of time and say, how did we always become pro-Israel? How did we become, such an ally? Well, of course, you had the Holocaust. America played a major, major role, if not the role, in ending that whole nightmare. So there's the connection there. And then, of course, the media. You have been told time and time again that the Jews, Israel, is our greatest ally. And that message has stuck because the people who wanted that message to stick owned the media. You get it, right? Okay. So as that's all happening, what do we have? We have a Muslim world that absolutely hates the Jews, hates Israel. They feel as if, Israel is their land, is their holy land. And so forever, in my lifetime, my entire lifetime, the Muslims have wanted to kill the Jews. And therefore, they've also wanted to kill the United States. They do not believe in the West. They do not believe in Western civilization. Yesterday, if you remember, on the big TV here, I had a picture of a young girl with her two brothers. And I think it was in the Netherlands. And in the Netherlands, those two brothers, coordinating with the father, killed their own sister/daughter. Why? Because she was becoming westernized, using the internet, talking to men, not completely covering every part of her skin. They literally killed her. This has been the mentality of these people. They've been burning the American flag, death to America, death to America, death to America. Well, I don't know who to attribute this to. Maybe Qatar, maybe Saudi Arabia, maybe the two of them, I don't know. But at some point, they all recognized that their plan wasn't doing very well, that burning the flag and death to America was not advancing what it is that they needed. They wanted money. They wanted dominance. They wanted their oil to be purchased. They wanted to be major players on the world globe stage. At the same time, they have another objective. Unlike the Jews, who are not going to try to force their religion upon you, unlike the Hindus, who are not going to try to dominate you with their religion, the Islamics believe that you should believe in Allah. And if you don't believe in Allah, you are the infidel. If you once believed in Allah and you came to the conclusion of, this is kind of radical, I want to be a Christian, I want to be something else, you're double the infidel. Christians, we're not trying to push anything upon you. We'd love it if you believed that Jesus was the Son of God. But we're not going to lie to get there. That's the difference. If you look at Christians and you look at Islamics, the Quran tells the Islamic that he or she can lie, cheat, steal, do whatever they must do if they are in a position where they must do that in order to push forward Muslim religion, Islamic doctrine, jihad, civil jihad. Christians, we don't do that. If we lie, we're sinners. So that's why we will not lie in order to advance our religion. It's the good versus the bad in my book. What has happened is that money has inserted itself at a new level because the Islamics, the Muslim world, finally figured out that if they're going to play in the game of fire, they have to fight it with fire. And so now they have dwarfed the Jews in terms of spending when it comes to messaging. They said, If the Jews are going to be a Ford, we're going to be a Ferrari. If they've got the assembly line with a lot of people touching the parts, we're going to be the assembly line with the AI. And then they started this going back about 10 years ago, and it has done wonders. So here's the report I put together to kind of give you a sense for how the money has been playing. And now you'll understand why all of a sudden so many people in the United States think that the Israelis and Israel are the big bad wolf. Over the past 10 years, the Israeli government has spent an estimated $500 million on shaping media narratives in the United States, covering online ads and traditional TV campaigns to promote positive views. In contrast, Muslim nations have aggressively flooded the United States with over $1.5 billion collectively. So that's $500 million to $1.5 billion in comparison. They have so over 1.5 collectively for similar influence, manipulating public opinion through PR and advertisements. This breaks down to the Saudi Arabians at $344 million, Qatar at $260 million, UAE at $243, Kuwait at $15 million, and others like Turkey and Pakistan adding $100 million combined, far outpacing Israel's efforts and raising concerns about hidden agendas. In the last two presidential elections, so what I just gave you in the first snapshot is the marketing, the advertising. Now we go to elections. In the last two presidential election cycles, 2020 and 2024, Israel-aligned groups spent about $150 million total to support pro-Israel candidates, with $95 million in 2024 alone through direct contributions and advertisements. Muslim nations, however, have poured in sneaky influence, totaling over $500 million, so almost 5 times the amount. $500 million across those cycles, using proxies and cyber operations from Iran, $200 million estimate, Qatar, $150 million, and Saudi Arabia, $100 million, to sway votes and undermine stability, often through disinformation that disrupts fair elections. Israel has invested, now this part here is the individuals. They're going after individuals, the influencers. You've all been hearing, you read online about how it is. They'll even do it to me. They'll be like, DML, where are you spending your $7,000 you got from Israel? This is what I'm going to explain to you. Israel has invested $900,000 recently on 14 to 18 U.S. influencers, paying up to $7,000 per social media post for pro-Israel content on platforms like Instagram and TikTok. But Qatar's lavish tactics go further, sponsoring a paid Thanksgiving 2020-25 trip for conservative influencers, including some representatives, House representatives like Laurel Lee, Abe Hamada, and Lance Gooden and Ryan Zinke, and others like Black community figures. Perks included free flights, luxury hotels, fine dining, and undisclosed gifts, totaling millions of dollars in value. Qatar spends more overall on such buyouts, gaining massive traction by silencing critics, while Israel's targeted approach yields efficient, genuine support. So this is why you wind up seeing Tucker Carlson going total pro-Sharia, total pro-Muslim, total anti-Jew. He got $15 million investment from a Pakistani. Now you understand. Now we go to the groups outside of the actual governments. CARE, which is the arm of the Muslim world in terms of for lobbying, and related Muslim pro-groups spent collectively $50 million annually on messaging and elections in the U.S., focusing on voter texts. They sent out 600,000 of them in 2024, where AIPAC, the Jewish arm, if you will, has beat them by spending $100 million per cycle. So that's the one area where you see that the Jews are beating the Muslims. But CARE is quickly growing into something that will dwarf AIPAC. And when you look at AIPAC, I see it all the time on X. That's what all these anti-Israeli, anti-Israel influencers are pointing out. Oh, this person took money from AIPAC. Oh, this person took money from AIPAC. But they never take what CARE has spent. They never take what it is that the Muslim worlds have donated and highlight that. It's all part of that big, huge $1.5 billion that the Muslim world is spending. They're going to influencers. They're saying, you need to put out messages that are, anti-Jew, anti-Israel. You got to be talking about how they're trying to influence policy, and they're spending money on doing it. They're doing the only thing you ever see online is people saying that the Jews are paying. But in essence, they're paying a fraction compared to that of the Muslim world. But the Muslim world is spending so much money that it gets blanketed over. Nobody ever talks about it. And that is all by design. Israel donates about $375 million over the past 10 years to U.S. colleges, mainly for research. Muslim nations dwarf this with $8 billion. So in the past 10 years, you've had $375 million from Israel going into college and universities here in the United States, mostly for research and development. And you've cut $8 billion from the Muslim world going into universities. This includes Qatar's $5.1 billion and Saudi Arabia's $3 billion, funneled to protest hotbed schools like Cornell. Cornell University received pretty much $2 billion from Qatar. Harvard received over $1 billion. Columbia received over $500 million. And so when you see these schools having the pro-Palestine, anti-Israel protests, where do you think that's stemming from? Who do you think's buying that? Who do you think is influencing that? Muslim nations like Qatar and Saudi Arabia manipulatively use media and elections to demonize Israel as evil, funding biased Arab outlets with over $1 billion in ads portraying Israel as aggressors while ignoring Hamas atrocities. In U.S. elections, they spend $500 million plus on cyber attacks and proxies to elect anti-Israel candidates, spreading false narratives that erode America's alliances. So that's my report there. Take it as you will. You've got David and you've got Goliath. And the one thing that David has ignored, and this is what Charlie Kirk was trying to say to Benjamin Netanyahu in his 8-page letter, is you are missing it. You're missing it. The other side is hitting the youth. And this is why Israel loved Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk was the outlier. He was the guy who was going into the colleges, the $8 billion funded colleges, and he was giving a pro-Israel seminar, Q&A time, messaging. And so Israel was like, we love Charlie Kirk. He's one of our only soldiers on the college campuses. Now, Israel is sort of stuck in the world that you and I are in. We're still going to turn on Fox News. We're still going to watch, television. Yes, we're going to use the internet, but we're mostly going to use Facebook. These kids today, they're not doing that. They don't watch Fox News. They don't watch the television. They'll watch some streaming shows. Everything is this. Everything's the cell phone. Everything's the computer. That's where they get their news. That's where they get their influence. And before they get it there, they get it in these college campuses. And so the college campuses with $8 billion, they are giving out a pro-Palestine, pro-Muslim, anti-Israel message. And that is trickling. And Charlie Kirk warned of this. Now, again, I want to repeat. Israel's government doesn't do everything perfectly. And you may take a look at what took place in Gaza and think that they went overboard. Personally, I don't. I think when you're sleeping 24/7 with one eye open, at some point you get frustrated and you say, I'm tired of this. Our Iron Dome can only solve so many problems. There were people who were killed on October 7th, grotesquely. You've got the idiots out there that will say it wasn't really done. It was AI. It was child actors. It was Benjamin Netanyahu turned his blind eye, because he wanted to use October 7th as a way to get more American support. Listen, this isn't something that just happened in one day. It's been going on for the longest time. These kids today don't remember what you and I saw in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. They don't remember. They don't even know about the Iran hostage crisis. They don't know about any of that stuff. And one of the reasons being is it's not being taught in school. It's not being taught in college. None of this stuff. Most kids, they don't know who did 9/11, who carried it out. They're going to tell you that Israel carried it out. That is all based on money being spent wisely. The Muslim world has figured out the long game. The Jews and Benjamin Netanyahu, just like many of us here in the United States, we play the short game. We play the, oh my God, it's 7 minutes and I haven't gotten my McDonald's through the drive-thru. The other side says, I'll wait 100 years. America is going to be an Islamic state. That is where this is all foaming at the mouth. This is why you see what you see here and how it's unfolding. Now, take it a next step. Let's take a look at Wajahat Ali. Wajahat Ali. He is a messenger. He is a messenger for that radical Muslim world that, in addition to romancing the politicians and romancing Trump and taking over the colleges, they know that they have to pound home that the worst people in the world, right, go to this camera here, that the worst people in the world are the white Christians. And when you add on white Christian conservative, Trump voter, oh my God, you're the devil. You're the devil. You hate everybody. You don't like anybody who doesn't have white skin. You know, if you're wearing your cross, you're a Bible thumper, all the other different stuff. You know, I got the Bible sitting right here. I put the Bible next to my desk. It's here for every show. I got Abe Lincoln, I got the Bible, and I got Team DML hats. Got a headache today. Not wearing it. These people are plants. Their objective is one thing and one thing only: to eradicate, eviscerate, and destroy Christianity in this country. Make no mistake about it. And the biggest champions for Christianity are the people who look like you and me. Now, that's not to say we're the only God-fearing people in this country. There are tons. I mean, my goodness, Dr. Ben Carson, one of the most articulate men you'll ever hear, a brain surgeon, neurosurgeon, able to separate Siamese twins. You ever hear him talk about the gospel? You ever hear him talk about God? Eloquent. The black community is by and large Christian. But when you look at who is becoming Muslim, blacks are always moving over to the Muslim religion. Latinos are the fastest growing demographic in the Muslim religion. We're the ones who aren't moving over. And the reason being is simply because we're more educated. Now, some people say, oh, that's a racist statement. No, it's a statistic. We're more educated. We understand. We're not going to get lured in. We are a horrible foe for them. And they hate us. As a Christian, you're not supposed to have hate in your heart. As a Muslim, hate is what drives you. Again, you may not like the Jews. You may not like them at all. You may think, all the stereotypes. They're cheap. They're this. They're that. I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. That's not my job. But I never see Jews in Europe trying to make London a Jewish state. I never see them raping young girls in Sweden. I don't see them destroying Christmas scenes and Christmas trees in Germany. I don't see it. That's what I see from the Muslims. So do you. We're going to play with this prick just had to say on his podcast. Now, I usually wouldn't give somebody like this a platform. He has far less followers than I do. But I'm going to give it to you because I think it's very important. In the same way that I just described to you the numbers that we're looking at, what we're up against, it's very important that you understand that this is the sort of messaging that is going to be extrapolated with each passing day, week, month, and year. And if we don't fight back against this stuff, we're in trouble. Ryan's going to play it right now. It's going to last for a couple of minutes, and it is going to infuriate you because he is talking about you, and you directly, and your entire family. Play.
He spreads more hate against Somali refugees. I don't want to repeat it. And then, of course, he targets Ilhan Omar, who's black, who's a woman, and who's a Muslim. And what I will say is this. We're not going back. I want all the hate mongers who watch this, and I hope they do watch this because I know they hate watches. You've lost. You have lost. You lost. The mistake that you made is you let us in the first place. See, that's the thing with brown people. And I'm going to say this as a brown person. There's a lot of us. Like a lot. There's like 1.2 billion in India. There's more than 200 million in Pakistan. There's like 170 million in Bangladesh. Those are just the people there. I'm even talking about the folks who are expats or immigrants. There's a bunch of us. And we breed. We're a breeding people. And the problem is you let us in 1965. There were a few of us beforehand. But once you let one of us in, you know what happens with brown folks? Our grandmother comes, our grandfather comes, our uncle comes, our aunt comes, our cousin comes, our second cousin comes, our third cousin comes. Then we have kids, a bunch of kids. And then guess what? Some white women, the Western civilization women, the pure women, the American women, quote unquote, the Rust Belt women, the real women, they like some of us brown folks. We don't take them. They come to us. And then we have kids. And I got these beautiful caramel skinned kids. You can't get rid of us. We're here. Asians, same thing. Latinos, oh my God. Once you let the Latinos in, by the way, some of them came back because, this country belonged to them. Mexico, California. I digress. Latinos are just like us too, man. They breeding people. And guess what? A lot of your folks who love the Western civilization love the Latino women. And they also love black women. Oh, and then they marry and they have kids. And they're these beautiful biracial kids. You lost. There are too many of us. Even if you try to come against us and these crusaders come, we're going to get the Muslims. Let me tell you about Muslims. We got our problems. There's 1.7 billion of us. Look at Palestine right now. Not everyone's Muslim. A lot of Christian people are atheists. Look at the faith that Palestinian Muslims have. They're still fasting during Ramadan, during a genocide and starvation. They're eating dirt, but they don't give up their faith. You can't go against the Muslims. You can cause a lot of damage and pain and suffering like you did in Afghanistan, in Palestine, in Iraq, in what's happening in the drone strikes in Yemen, the starvation campaign in Yemen, thanks to your best friend MBS. We are, the thing with Muslims, I will say, we have faith. You can't get rid of us. You can't. You can't. Black people, resilient. You tried. Slavery, still survived, still didn't turn cruel. Could you imagine if these, not all white folks, I'm talking about these white MAGA voters, these white Christian nationalists, these white supremacists, if they had to endure a week in the shoes of what black people have to endure, they would burn the country down. They would burn the country down. Look at black folks. Look at what black folks have endured in this country. They're not the ones inciting a violent insurrection against an election that they lost. They're like, all right, we lost this election, whatever. It was these crazy ass whites who followed Trump. That's his base. All right. Uh, Asian Americans, ooh, the model minority. You always think like we're weak. You know, I'm talking about all of Asia, China and South Asia. We're smart as hell. We get educated. We work hard. We work in the trenches. Can't get rid of us. We're strategic as hell. Can't get rid of us. And there's a whole bunch of us as well. And because we got educated and because we came thanks to 1965 Nationality and Immigration Nationality Act, a lot of us became doctors and engineers and entrepreneurs and business people. Literally, your grandfather can probably walk because of a Pakistani Muslim doctor. Literally, you probably are alive thanks to a surgery done by an Asian American doctor. All right. So we're embedded. We are everywhere. We are everywhere. I've traveled this country. I'm going to speak as a brown person. Brown people are everywhere. There will be a Patel motel or there will be a Desi restaurant everywhere. I want you to realize this. You have lost. You've lost. White supremacists, white nationalists, you've lost. You are losers. Your story is a shitty story filled with misery. It's filled with bland chicken. It's filled with terrible, terrible dry ass meat. Your music sucks. All your culture sucks. Nobody. That's why the kids like listen to black people and their music. That's why the kids love Latinos. Your parties suck because they're monochromatic. Our parties have better food, better music, better looking women. That's why your kids want to come to our parties. And our parties are multiracial. So there's white people in our parties. There are brown people in our parties. There are black people in our parties. There are Asian people in our parties. There are young people. There are old people, atheists, Muslims, Christians, right? Our block party and our barbecues are much better, which is why everyone wants to come to our parties. Your parties suck. Bland ass chicken, bland looking people, friggin' mayonnaise sandwiches. So there's still time left. Drop the hate, drop the miserly vision, drop the miserly narrative, just drop the fear. Just embrace the fact that you are living in the most diverse country on earth. Do what you got to do. Just chill. Have a cookie and a Coke, right?
So we lost our feed on Facebook. So let me just write something on Facebook. If you lost us, go to rumble.com/DML. No, that's not it. Okay, yes. Anyway, give me one moment. Okay. Sorry about that. So there you go. That's what you get from this guy. Now, let me tell you something, what you don't know, what he didn't tell you, okay? I mean, I found it to be disgusting, horrifying, gross. And there's a lot of things I would like to say to him that I can't say right now because I'm not prepared to take the onslaught. Oh, you know what? We're not on Facebook anymore. I could probably just say it. First of all, this guy is why people hate, why they hate. I can't stand this guy right now. I hate him. I'm not supposed to because I'm a Christian. But what he just said about you and me and our children, he deserves the worst that the world has to bring to anybody. He's horrendous. A huge, huge disappointment for the people like him because what happens is they become guilty by association. He talked about how it was that we're too late. We've lost. We lost. Yeah, we haven't lost anything, buddy. Okay? Because at the end of the day, he was talking about how you got that operation from the Asian man and you got that ability to walk from the Pakistani doctor. Well, let me tell you what you got. You got the education from the white man. You got to work at the hospital built from the white man. Okay? So he could say all he wants. Who is the horse and who is the carriage? Yeah, listen. What's the chicken and what's the egg? We're both. You're not going to take away. I'm not going to sit here and let him take away the advancements that we've made as a people because we have white skin. If he wants to play that game, see, here's the thing that we keep on losing on. You and I don't sit here and talk in the way of brown people versus white people. We don't do it that way. We just talk people. They have a desire to do that. They want to guilt you. They want to shut you up. They want to use our culture against us. We don't use the N-word, but the brown people can. Well, let me tell you what's going to change soon. I'm not going to be the guy to do it because I just have too much respect for my fellow human being. But at some point, just like the word retarded is back, the N-word's coming back because they're using it. You can't have two sets of laws. You can't have two sets of rules. You can't have two sets of concepts. You can't have that you're allowed to say it, but I'm white, so I can't say it. Why have we let that happen? Who made that rule? This is what that guy's doing. He's playing that game. He's playing a word game. He says that we have a shitty story filled with bland chicken and that our culture sucks. If our food sucks, if our parties suck, if our culture sucks, why did you come here? Why did your loser parents come here? Your crime-ridden parents. What am I talking about? Ali doesn't want to tell you this part. I will. The United States Attorney Scott Schools announced that defendants Mirza Ali and Sama whatever Ali, husband and wife, and defendants Keith Griffin and William something or other were sentenced yesterday for their role in devising a scheme to defraud Microsoft by obtaining discounted software under false pretenses. The scheme involved purchasing more than $29 million worth of software that was steeply discounted for academic institutions and then selling it to non-academic entities in violation of the Microsoft agreement. They wound up going to jail for 4.5 years, his parents. And you know what he wound up doing? He went on CNN and he went all over the place telling it that it was an anti-brown person, FBI and an anti-brown person America that put his parents in jail because they are the ones who carried it out. The judge sentenced the mother, who was 60 at the time, and the husband, who was 53, to 60 months imprisonment for forfeiture in the amount of $5.1 million, restitution to Microsoft in the amount of $20 million. 3 years of supervised release. This is what this is. This is what this guy is. He's a Pakistani who is the child of immigrant criminals. This is why Trump says we don't need these people. Why do we need two people from Pakistan who are going to come to the United States and steal from our corporations, steal from our fellow Americans? We don't need them. 5 years, I would have sent the whole family packing back to Pakistan. Why do we keep them here? Why do we have to deal with this prick who now writes columns for the New York Times and who has a presence all the time on CNN? Says we're never going to beat the Muslims because the Muslims have faith. No, the Muslims are sick in the brain. We're the ones with the faith. You don't see the Christians coming up with something like ISIS where we're going to cut people's heads off. Now, the only thing that this guy made any sense was, yeah, we made a huge mistake in 1965 before I was even born in creating a situation to where we're taking in people like this guy. But whether he's brown, green, or white, I don't give a rat's ass. People like this have no place in American society. And he's right. Chain migration is destroying this country, destroying it. He says blacks, that you and I would never be able to endure what blacks endure on a daily basis, on a weekly basis here in America. And if we did, we'd go burning down the cities. Hello? Have you ever seen what the blacks have done to the cities? They burn it down. You arrest one of their freaking most horrible creatures in George Floyd, and what do? They burn down their own cities. They create it to where their own people can't go to a CVS and get the medications they need because they burnt it down in protest. Here's the difference between him, his kind, and you and me. You and I are civilized. You and I are civilized. That's the difference, and we always will be. And so the people like him will not ever take over. We have not lost anything. We have been pushed back, and Trump is the beginning of a movement that's going to be lasting for decades. So this way we don't take in more like him and his dirtbag loser piece of crap parents who should have never been here in the first place, but should have been deported. Maybe they still can be. Maybe he still can be. Maybe we just need the next iteration of Trump, which will be 10 times stronger and better than the 79-year-old man Trump. That said, I'm out of time, and we lost our Facebook. So we're going to push off the Venezuela stuff. Plus, I have an 11 o'clock interview that I have to do. So we're going to do it short here. We are going to play one video here. Usually I do a crazy left. This isn't a leftist. This is a person, as this guy would call, a brown person who wanted to be a lion tamer and thought, why don't I just climb into the lion's cage and see if I could live my dream, and wound up basically paying the big price. Take a look at this brilliant. Go.
Eita caralho. Esse cara vai aparecer nada, vai aparecer no...
Porra nenhuma, mano. Olha espremendo lá os pés dele lá.
Meu Deus, desceu, tá vendo? Ai, meu Deus, olha. Olha, meu. Ai, meu Deus, pra que subiu ali?
Como é que é? Olha, já pegou ele.
Ai, meu Deus, pra que... Ai, filho.
Já pegou ele, já pegou.
Meu Deus. Pegou ele. Pegou ele. Eu guardo por cima. Pegou ele.
Man who jumped in there was schizophrenic. But nonetheless, where was everybody else around him? Did you see the reaction of the people there? Nobody was screaming. I was like, oh yeah, this is normal. This is normal. That's the difference. Civilized people versus not so much. That's it for me. Don't forget dmlcbd.com. Last day today. Go in there and get it for $20. Until the next time, which will be tomorrow, God willing. Tomorrow is our interview with a candidate, James Fishback, who is running for governor in Florida. Don't miss that tomorrow, 10 a.m. on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, X, and of course the DML News app for Team DML. Until next time, stay well. Thanks for joining us. God bless America.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.